All right, hopefully we are live. I guess YouTube's have been having problems streaming lately, and well, you haven't heard from me in a while uh, for that reason, and well, oh, you know, busy time of year as well. So, um, but I'm making up for it here because we have some very nice specimens, shall we say, of the Red Ryder kind. Now, I have a first model Red Ryder, but I don't have it out on the table. Um, but you know what came with a Red Ryder at some point, perhaps in the 40s, perhaps. Uh, my guess is maybe in the 50s. This, I don't even know if you can see it. It's very hard to catch. And I wasn't all that impressed with it when I saw it, but I just, you know, I had to acquire it. These things aren't all that expensive, and but it is really cool. Unfortunately, it's going to be really hard for you to see it. Yeah, it's really hard for you to see it. Um, I thought it was bigger and a little bit more gaudy, but this is just a tiny little pin. Look at this little tiny pin. So, Mike, yes. Well, Mike, no, I don't like it. I love it. It's great. Great little addition. And when I find out from maybe one of you out there when this pin initially came out and what gun, if it went to one gun or several guns, my suspicions, because I've seen pictures, is that this came with the Red Ryder. And that's why I was spurred on to bring out some of these Red Ryders. So let's get a little closer in. Now, the Red Ryder, as some of you may know, come in a couple of varieties. Well, probably even more than a couple, especially if you're talking about the Red Ryder offshoots. And the Red Ryder is just an offshoot itself, right, of the Lightning loader. I don't have that on. There's only so much room on the table. The Lightning loader is actually some of a shorter barrel. Uh, Only holds what, about 500, and I guess the upgrade was that these hold supposedly 1,000. I think the number might be more like 650 or something. One of you can correct me on that. So what do we have here? We have a 1947. Let's go ahead and give that a shot right here and now. 1947. Oh man, I hate missing on camera. You know, I only miss when I'm on camera, by the way. All right, take a harder shot then. There we go. Let's see if we can still get in the shot. There we go. See if we'd make the Aboriginals king. Yes. There we are. Okay. Sorry there, I couldn't help myself. So that's the 1947 Red Ryder, number 111, model 40. The model being, of course, the first year it was produced, 1940. Then we have here, they look like twins. In fact, they are perhaps twins. This has a little bit of a sparkle to it. I wonder if they put a little bit of glitter or something in the mold when they made certain ones, because this seems to have a little bit of a sparkle to it, and this one doesn't. Interesting. This one has a darker stock. There isn't really much differences in these two otherwise. They're both 111s, Model 40s. Now, of course, you can tell the difference here. The first model has a gold band here and here, right? Gold band sight, gold barrel band. And a cast iron lever. Yeah. You know, I've never bothered to check out the difference between this top screw. Usually a big or small screw also is what helps you discern the year. We know this is a 1947 because it still has the wood foregrip and the aluminum lever. The aluminum lever came in after the war because we had to use a lot of the iron for the war effort, so they went to aluminum, and what I call the never stick black, because there's none of these where the paint is actually stuck to the aluminum lever. We know this is not 1950s because by 1950s, 53, 54, they started using this foregrip, plastic foregrip, still a wooden stock, a plastic foregrip. I still have the original leather. This is the original leather too for this. I think I'm going to put it back on. I just don't, I'll have to condition it and put it back on. It was just ugly, just like this, maybe a little uglier, but I think reconditioning will be fine. I'll put that back on there. If you notice, this is loose, and I'm not going to tighten it. Reason why is because it's beveled, because these bent in the sun, in the heat, very easily. Both of these, look, both of them, same thing. This one stays on a little tighter. I don't know, maybe this can go on a little bit tighter. I don't think so. Yeah, perhaps I'll maybe experiment, take a heat gun and see if I can reform this, straighten this. That's for another time and day. So these are like 1953-ish. This is 1947, 1953. Why am I bringing these out and showing you these? Well, mostly, first of all, 1940, I don't know how many they sold in the very first model of 1940, but not many. That's why they're so expensive. My 1940 is in the safe. So it's also not functioning. So I don't like to show non-functioning guns. Only when I first get them. If they're not functioning, then that's video proof, right? But this, this is after the war, right? So this probably saw a lot of production, and then when they went into 53, 54, probably really saw even more production with this. And then they finally went, and I don't have one for you here, and by then, because now 1958, by 1958 they moved, right, to Rogers. However, Michigan still put out a all plastic and forearm gun. So that still happened in Plymouth before the move to Rogers, Arkansas. So yeah, that happened in 1958, that move. And what else did I want to say about this? Well, anyway, what I wanted to get to, really cool. Thanks, Mike, by the way. Mike is the guy that sent this. If you catch this video, but thank you. I love it. All right. So what is this? What is this thing? Well, this is the 19 1938. And the 1938, this is a 1938 that was released in 1988, because this is an anniversary, 50th anniversary reproduction of the model 1938. Now, the model 1938 is a strange thing. What I mean by that is, first of all, there was no Red Ryder in 1938. So I can't explain that. Maybe you can, but I can't. There might have been a Lightning loader that then was produced in 1939, but there is no Red Ryder in 1938. So that's kind of peculiar. Maybe they're trying to get away from the horrible years of 1940, the pre-war years of 1940. I don't know. 1938 was still pre-war, right? Okay, so I don't know why they're calling it a 38. If you do, please let us know. Then here's another aspect of this. I believe, and I could be wrong here, but from my research, all I could find is 1938 was a version of the Red Ryder that was put out in 1972. That's very peculiar. And then this is a reissue of the fictitious 1938 that never existed, for 1988. So this is 1988. You can tell it's an 80s gun because it has a safety, it has plastic lever, plastic trigger, plastic safety, of course. It's called the 1938B, and it's purportedly made in Rogers, Arizona. And look, it's a side loader here, so this is all new stuff, really, relatively new. So, and then of course we have the Red Ryder etching. So the Red Ryder has seen an amazing amount of iterations. Well, the ones I can, the first model with the copper bands, the second variations with not copper bands but still had probably the cast iron lever. Then we go into the post-war 1947 where they transitioned to the aluminum levers. Then we have the 1953s, 54 models that are transitioning from wood to plastic at the forearm, and then not shown here is the plastic foregrip and stock. When we think of Red Ryders, a lot of times we mistakenly think of the 1896, the 18, oh geez, I forget the name of that gun. I don't have any, that's why. We often think of those because, that's, in my mind, another Red Ryder. Any of these lever actions, really, would remind you of the Red Ryder, especially if it has this ring. Some of the Red Ryders later on didn't have the saddle ring, especially those that were commissioned out to other stores, Sears and Roebuck and whatnot. So, yeah, the mystery of this 1988. I tell you, this one shoots really good. I don't think I'm gonna miss. Oh, I missed. All right. Like I said, it only happens on camera. Oh, it's habitually happening. Okay, I have this little thing where I have a relatively close target. If I'm lucky, I can see where it's going. This is shooting a little high and to the right. So I'm gonna aim low to the left. There we go. So that's essentially the trick with any of these, by the way, is if you can see where the flight path is and where it's actually hitting as compared to where you're aiming. If you can see that, then it's easy to make adjustments. And you know, and then you don't really need adjustable sights so much. You know, this elevation sight is quite a luxury, but I would never really use it. Adjust to it. If you can tell, these older Red Ryders, they have a solid non-adjustable. There we go. I hope you didn't miss much. So I was talking about the flight path is always going to be different depending on your range, right? Because it's traveled not just in an arc but also in an arc and a spiral. So your point of impact is going to vary out at different distances and different parts, if that makes sense, right? In other words, it's traveling within a circle and an arc. So, you know, you'll be adjusting your sights, you know, every shot unless you keep shooting and, you know, in like a target that's at a fixed distance. And, you know, I like plinking at things close, medium, and far ranges. So it really doesn't do me any good to have adjustable sights for that sort of thing. But instead gets me adjusted to adjusting my point of aim in order to hit what I'm trying to hit at. And I think it's more fun that way. I'm not hitting anything out beyond 50 yards. So yeah, it puts a little bit of challenge into it. But it's not unpredictable. You can certainly predict, as long as you can, at a close range, you can see how it's traveling. Then when you shoot out 20, 25, 30, 50 yards, you'll have a pretty good estimate as to where that BB is going to land. So I don't have any answers for you here. This 1938, so-called 1938B. This is a reissue commemorative 50-year anniversary, 1938. You see it there. Adjustable sights, fancy that, huh? Yeah, you know, some of the Model 25s, I think the Model 25s had adjustable sights because they were that strong and powerful that they figured people wanted to do target practice with it and have, because that's what adjustable sights are probably good for static target practice. So the cool thing about this, these shoot pretty good, you know. I mean, we're all suspicious of the plastic. I did have a Red Ryder Christmas special, limited edition that actually broke, and I was devastated. But Daisy immediately sent me a new one, and it works fine. But I have a funny feeling it's all the same from the 80s, you know, the same kind of setup here. And so these 80s guns and plastic guns, as well as they work, do make me a little nervous shooting them too much. That said, let me shoot this again. Now, oh right, forgot which way this one was traveling. This one was traveling. Double check. Okay, the sun can sometimes, depending on where the sun is, it's hard to really see where they're going. This is going low and right, so we're gonna go high. We're gonna shoot high and left, just slightly. There we go. The target I'm hitting is about 25. That's 30, 40, 50. I'd say 30 yards. Now, if you have any, yeah. Oh, right. Let me show you. We got, this is on one side. The medallion is on what would be called the right side of the gun, and the wood etching, the Fred Harmon etching, is on the left side of the gun. Where they put this actually did change over the years. I don't remember exactly when they changed that over, but that did happen. All right, so, well, this is the 1938. I'm kind of featuring, I would say, this and this awesome Shoot Safe Buddy pin. Yeah? How awesome is that? Shoot Safe Buddy. Great. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm featuring here. The 1988 reissue. This particular gun is, it's seen some use, that's for sure. The some of the paint has been scratched off, but I'm not really seeing any painted barrels. That's why they just, once they went painted, I don't think they went back. It's hard to go back, right? Because all of these guns have a little bit of rust, just a little. I usually clean them up when I get them. I haven't cleaned this one up at all. And this one, as you know right now, is shooting pretty decent power. Yeah, I'm not getting a lot of drop out of this. It's shooting slightly to the right at close range. At far range, I would probably, let's do a 30. No, that's a 40-yard shot. Let's try this 40-yard shot, see if we can get it. One more. Boom. That's a rusted shovel head. The sound of a rusted shovel head. Yeah, I really do like, and as you can see, it's nice and quiet. It's easy to cock. I probably don't even have to not shoulder it. Yeah, once you get your point of aim right, it's hitting, and it's hitting pretty strong. So I wouldn't say this has lost much velocity, if any. Yeah, I would not say this lost much velocity. A little bit of marring, right? I don't know what that scratch is. It's not like indentation scratches. That could probably be buffed out. I don't really like to recondition guns. I'll clean them up. Give them as good a cleaning as I can without affecting the gun itself. For me, is it a good shooter? And is it, does it feel good? Is it a good shooter? And looking good doesn't have to mean nice and shiny. I think that's the nice thing about these is when they kind of look nice a little used, right? And you know, if you have an old gun that hasn't been used, chances are it's because it's not a good shooter, right? Or it just never got shot and then maybe needs to be broken in. Older guns, if you don't use them, you know, the seals will dry out, especially the old leather seals. They'll dry out, and then the gun will not have much strength or any strength. Um, Anything else we can talk about this so-called 1938 Red Ryder? Um, yeah, you know, I mean, if you have a recent Red Ryder, then it's a 1938. I don't, to my knowledge, they are not putting out a 111. Um, Again, if I'm wrong on that, somebody correct me, huh? But this is the 1988, and it's not bad. Painted barrel. Yeah. This is metal, but this little wedge here is plastic. This is a metal band. This is a plastic front sight. This is the side loading port instead of the loading here. So this is just a pretty much for decor. And yeah, I really can't vouch for if it is actually made in Rogers, Arkansas in the 80s. They sure were putting a lot of stuff, getting a lot of stuff in China, not talking about, because you didn't have to stamp made in China necessarily, right? So perhaps assembled in Rogers might have been a better way to say it, but I could be wrong. Maybe they stamped and pressed all of this stuff back in the 80s. I don't know to what extent they actually make the parts and manufacture them in the United States. I would guess that they just don't, because it's just the price of the guns are too low, which means that they had to have you know, cut manufacturing costs by going overseas. That's just a fact of life. No amount of stamping is going to change that reality. Um, and in fact, I think even, you know, Daisy and Rogers, you know, probably puts a pretty high premium on the guns that they actually do assemble there at the factory. Perhaps they have some, you know, modifications that they do if they assemble them at the factory. Don't know. Usually, I have a funny feeling most of what they're doing is cosmetic. You know, branding the stocks and the forearms, going back to the wood, because you know people are liking the wood, but they're using a composite wood now. FYI, yeah. Just like these are sort of composite plastic. They're quite sturdy, and well, only time will tell if the plastic internals, you know, will stand the test of time. All right. Well, I think I've truly said as much as I can about this. Right, the 1938 supposedly came out in '72 and was the reissue of this. It was the reissue of the original 1940. Yeah, but they decided to call it a 1938 instead. And B, I'm not quite sure what B did this with the 15B as well, with the buck. Not quite sure which 105, antique 105, they are referring to. That's another mystery that I've been trying to solve. All right. Calier here. Thanks for checking the show out. You know, we have a new website. It's called Picking a Daisy. It's over on WordPress. And hey, drop me a line. Let me know what you got. Let me know what you're thinking. If you got any, and definitely contact me if you have any information on these, or maybe even a story. If you happen to own one of these as a kid, or maybe you own one now, love to hear your stories. Okay, I'll see you next time, guys.